is ended. The Atari 8-bit podcast.
So I sold one copy of the program, but not through Atari. I sold it directly to one guy in New Jersey.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Mark Odendahl was the creator of Rush Hour, a Frogger-like game that appeared in the winter 1983 Atari Program Exchange catalog, the final APX catalog. He also wrote one program for A.N.A.L.O.G Computing Magazine. Number Editor appeared in the January 1989 issue. I'll read the catalog entry for Rush Hour. Rush Hour by Mark and Susie Odendahl. Recommended for ages 8 and up, written in machine language. 5 o'clock on the freeway. Another day at the rat race is over, and now you're racing home. Oh no, you're almost out of gas, and the only station for miles is across 6 lanes of crazy traffic and a railroad track crammed with commuter trains. Your goal is to get your car from the shoulder at the bottom of the screen to the gas pumps at the top. Using your joystick, you can speed up, slow down, change direction, don't stop. In each lane, you dodge speeding cars and trucks. Look out for that train. If you crash, watch out for that pothole. You're done for. You get points each time you cross a lane, stop at a gas pump, or move up a level. There are 20. Drive solo or challenge a friend. Now hit the road. Review comments. Lots of color and action. Quick reflexes and good timing help get the big scores. Requires 1 Atari joystick controller per person. Order information. It was available on diskette or cassette, although it's really not clear that any cassette versions were produced. Either way, it required 16K of RAM, cost $29.95. It was APX catalog number 20269. This interview took place on January 24th, 2017. How you got interested in computers? How did you end up with an Atari? Who is Susie? Tell me the story.
Okay, well, I'll do the easy part first, which is Susie is my ex-wife, and she really had nothing to do with the program. Her name was on there to make her feel better about all the time I was putting into it.
Was she a computer widow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as getting into computers and Ataris and stuff, after I got out of high school, here in Minnesota, we had, at the time, free tech schools and no tuition. So I went to tech school for computer programming and became a mainframe computer programmer and had been doing that for about 7 years. And I had been hearing things about Apple computers and Radio Shack computers and stuff. And I had a relative that had a Radio Shack color computer, and I played around with that and got really excited about, doing stuff on my own home computer and not having to program for other people. So I did some research, and at the time, when I bought my Atari 800 was 1981, and at that time, as best I could tell, its capabilities were a lot better than like the Apple IIs, as far as graphics, colors, sound, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I went with Atari.
Nice. Before we get there, what mainframe did you program, and for what company?
I was programming on IBM mainframes. Their Model 360s and 370s, doing COBOL, Fortran, Assembler, PL1, RPG, different languages. I worked for a company that no longer exists called North Central Airlines. I mean, it exists, but it's part of Delta now, North Central. Then I worked for the state of Montana for a while, too. And so actually, when I got my Atari, I had gone back to the airlines, and by that time it was Republic Airlines. Mm-hmm. So I was working there when I bought the Atari.
Nice. So you got an 800?
We got an Atari 800. Got the assembler cartridge to go with it. Mm-hmm. I eventually bought a version. It's hard for me to remember. I haven't had the computer for over 20 years, but I think I bought a version of assembler language that came on a disc, that was either by a third party or a different Atari version. I can't remember which it was now.
And you probably were able to jump right into the assembly because you were so familiar with other programming languages on the mainframes.
Yeah, and a couple of things that made it nice, Atari published everything about their operating system. You could buy the listing of their operating system code to see what that was like, to see what they did. I think you could even buy I even had the listing of their basic interpreter of, how it did its job.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then I had to buy a book about the 6502 processor that was in the Atari. And, learn its assembler language, but its assembler language was very limited and very straightforward, very easy to learn.
Was Rush Hour the first program that you made, or did you create other things first?
Well, I'm sure I created a lot of other stuff, but nothing that I ever tried to sell to anybody or anything. I did a lot of basic programming on it. I did a lot of experimenting with the assembler language stuff to see, just to learn how the graphics worked and stuff like that. I tried to make a version of the old Tank versus Tank video game in assembler language, but I never really got that one done. I just was using it to try and experiment with different things graphically and with sound and stuff. But Rush Hour was my first big real project. And Atari, it was fun because you could work directly with people at Atari. You could get them on the phone and talk to them about stuff. It was kind of nice in those days.
Cool.
When I got once I got Rush Hour going and got it done, and then they came out with I'm assuming you saw it in the catalog, right?
Yes. So it came out in the final APX catalog, which this winter 1983 catalog, which by the time this came out, it was like a half-size catalog with only like 8 pages, and everyone I've talked to whose program first appeared in this catalog didn't sell any. Or sold like 3 copies.
Well, here's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I got a letter from somebody, I think it was somebody from New Jersey, that was a car enthusiast, and he wanted to get his hands on anything related to cars. So he wanted to buy a copy of Rush Hour from me, and I was like, and he said he couldn't buy it from Atari anymore, and I'm like, what the heck? It just came out. And so I called Atari and asked them what was going on, and they said they got a new president who felt that APX competed with their programmers, and the new president was basically putting the kibosh on APX. And they apologized for not contacting me and letting me know, but that's the way it was. So I sold one copy of the program, but not through Atari. I sold it directly to one guy in New Jersey.
Wow. Oh man, that's the worst.
So that was it. That kind of ended my big push to learn a lot about or do a lot of game programming or anything. And Rush Hour was not a very good game. It was very simple and not anything that you'd expect to become a hit or anything like that. And I kind of went by the wayside with doing stuff on Atari. I did do one article for Antique magazine.
I believe it was an A.N.A.L.O.G magazine.
A.N.A.L.O.G. Yes, you're right. You're right. That's what it was. A.N.A.L.O.G. magazine.
Number editor, a machine language subroutine that'll add the equivalent of a print using statement using Atari Basic.
Yeah, that was fun to do. I mean, it was just a nifty little thing, and it was manipulating the basic interpreter and doing stuff like that. It was fun.
Nice. And I bet they paid you at least a few dollars.
Yeah, I got their standard fee. I can't remember exactly what it was. A couple $100.
Yeah.
For that, and again, it was fun. It was fun to get your name in a magazine like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the old Creative Computing magazine?
Sure. Yeah.
They had the author John Anderson, who was killed in the San Francisco earthquake, would write about every different type of computer, and that was I'm kind of bringing this up all of a sudden, but I just remembered that part of my influence to go with Atari was his writings in creative computing, and he actually had a contest in there one time. It was to create special fonts or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was about. And, I did enter that. I got my name in creative computing for having entered it, but he published something that somebody else had done way more than he was asking us to do in our entries, and but that was a good magazine too.
Yeah,
Creative Computing. I was sorry to see that go.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. I was surprised at Rush Hour appearing at all in the APX catalog, because normally Atari would not have allowed anything that was, basically a ripoff of an Atari game. And this is Frogger. So you never had your hands on the game, did you? No, you called me and I didn't get a chance to play it because we did this interview with no prep time, so I have not played it yet.
But you actually have a copy of Rush Hour?
It's downloadable from the internet, so yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that. When I did that, I suspect I was influenced a lot by Frogger, but not necessarily trying to rip it off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was probably influenced by the horizontal motion of stuff. And that was another reason I say it not only was a lot like Frogger, it wasn't nearly as much fun as Frogger. So.
All right, here.
That's why I say I didn't even expect it that anybody, my feeling, it's probably one of the reasons that the president of the company might have made the decision he made at the time was, you've got this one division here that's probably trying to make money any way they can by selling as much as they can, regardless of the quality or whatever.
I'm playing it now in my emulator, and it's fun. It's okay. Yeah. I like the train. So I think I'm a person trying to cross the street because for some reason, and there's cars and trucks going by. But kind of the unique thing, which I think is a nice addition, is there's a train that's on a track that speeds down the middle of the screen. And that's a fun obstacle. And
yeah, that was my favorite part of the game as far as I kind of liked the fact that I was able to create a train with a halfway decent sounding train at the time. Mm-hmm. Just the rumble of the train down the tracks. One of the things that I really enjoyed when I wrote that was learning about, how the Atari functioned. Did you ever program the Atari?
In BASIC, well, a little bit of machine language, but mostly in BASIC, yeah.
Are you familiar with the horizontal and vertical syncs
yes.
interrupts they did?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was fun learning all that stuff and writing your code around it. In Rush Hour, I didn't use the horizontal syncs, but I had code in there to refresh the screen, to move objects around during the vertical sync process. And it was a unique environment for me. I had been mainly a business programmer on the mainframes, so doing the graphics stuff was a lot of fun.
Cool. So it looks like this is done maybe in the graphics to text mode with redefined characters, and then use players for the player. And,
I think that's
yeah, nice. That's
I
fun.
think that's what I did, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I understand. So, I mean, those are your two big claims to fame, I think, on the Atari, were Rush Hour and the article in A.N.A.L.O.G. Anything else that I don't know about?
No, that was about it. I donated all my Atari equipment to a charity back in the 90s sometime.
Yeah.
By that time, I had so much mainframe stuff to do. I had to get into different languages, so many different languages on the mainframe. I was doing C and C++ and Power Builder and Visual Basic and all that stuff, and Java eventually, and it was just like, okay, I just was totally ignoring doing anything with Atari at all, and even playing games. And I consider it one of the 10 biggest mistakes of my life that I gave that all away because I miss playing the games.
Well, that's what eBay's for.
Yeah, I suppose. Any rate, it was a lot of fun.
Good. What do you do today?
I am in tech support for Farmington, Minnesota School District, and I'm basically their database person, and then we also all do the standard tech support stuff. If teacher's computer doesn't work, we troubleshoot it and try and fix it or replace it or whatever we have to do. And you're probably aware that school districts now are all getting iPads and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so we've got 8,000 iPads in our school district that we support, and most of the elementary, or probably all the elementary classrooms and some of the secondary classrooms have smart boards, which are interactive whiteboards. Things like that. Everything requires constant technical support. Mm-hmm. Nothing just works, not even Apple products.
Are the kids super hard on the iPads?
There are a lot of individual instances of that happening. Overall, I'm not sure, but we get a lot of really smashed iPads turned in.
Yeah.
And so there are at least, and I don't work directly with the iPad, the broken ones, but I hear the stories all the time. And there was one story of a kid that was FaceTiming, a middle school kid FaceTiming with his girlfriend
mm-hmm.
on his iPad, and he thought it would be cool if she would see his face spinning around, so he put his iPad in the microwave. And that didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
And of course, when they turn the stuff in, they claim that I didn't do anything. It was in my backpack, and when I got to school, it was broken.
Yeah.
And in the case of the microwave instance, it was pretty cool because the particular principal at that school is so good at interrogating students that he finally got the kids to admit what happened.
Nice. This game is hard. I'm still playing it. I've only made it across the street a couple of times.
Well, I think to me the biggest problem with the game is once you get past the very beginning of it, there was no really add-ons. It didn't, I didn't have a lot of inspiration of what to do to keep adding features as you progress through levels and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's it's something I was proud of that I was able to do and figure out how to do it. But it's again, even at the time I did it, after I had submitted that and bought Caverns of Mars from APX, I was just blown away at the difference in the level of expertise or quality of the gaming experience that Caverns of Mars was compared to Rush Hour. And, probably another ego-deflating thing that probably kept me from trying to come up with another game.
Well, for what it's worth, I know you didn't sell any, but you really squeaked it under the wire for getting published. Your catalog number was 269, and the highest catalog number that APX published was 272. So it looks like there were two programs accepted after yours, and so I guess there's a claim to fame for that. Let's see. What haven't I asked you about that time that I should have?
Well, I don't really know. I think one of the things that I remember about when I first got the Atari is how little expectation I had of home computers at the time. So like the simple graphics and everything was very pleasing to be able to do stuff with those simple graphics. And nowadays you have games that look like actual people in them and stuff, and real scenery and stuff like that. And I can remember thinking at the time it would be really cool to develop games where things look like people and real scenery and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I always thought too was that you could, if you knew what you were doing, you could probably use computers in the education area to create animations of things that might be hard to explain in a text or with just drawings and photos. If you could do animations and stuff. And I never, not being a teacher, I didn't think, couldn't think of anything that would be cool to do that way, but I was always sure there must be something that would be better off as an animation rather than just words. And I suppose now with all the apps they have for education on mobile devices, that's probably all been covered now.
Probably. I think this is my last question. If you could send a message to the Atari computer hobbyists that still exist, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
Well, keep at it and keep having fun. Just enjoy the moment. It's just fun to learn and create stuff on a computer.
Yes, it is. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
If you enjoyed these interviews and would like to contribute something, I encourage you instead to donate to one of our favorite organizations, the Internet Archive, at archive.org. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit digital library with the stated mission of universal access to all knowledge. They've done incredible things to preserve computer history, including hosting thousands of programs in an in-browser Atari emulator, creating the Wayback Machine, and offering full-page scans of countless Atari computer books and magazines. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate.